Hello, fellow ink drinkers, and welcome back to the Blind Girls Book Talk podcast. My name is Aria.
And I'm Belle.
And we are two legally blind sisters who love reading and love books. And so what we've done is we've created this show in order to talk about that. We talk about a wide variety of bookish content, and that can range from bad retellings of stories, book-to-movie adaptation comparisons, buddy reads, recent reads, bookish challenges. Really, the list does go on and on. And today what we're doing is we're doing another book-to-movie comparison, but there's a little bit of a twist. And the reason there's a little bit of the twist is because we're covering Matilda. Now, for those of you who aren't big musical theater people, you might not know that Matilda was adapted into a Broadway musical. And Belle and I have seen the musical version, and I know I really enjoyed the musical. And so I thought, well, that will be lovely to compare the book to the 90s movie with Danny DeVito to the Broadway musical. And then we found out that Netflix did their own movie musical version of Matilda. So I watched that. And let me tell you, it is an eldritch horror. I did not like it at all. And so what I decided to do was what we'll do is we'll start kind of with how we essentially experienced Matilda. So first we'll start with the 90s DeVito movie. Then we'll go to talking about the book. And then we will cover the Netflix version of Matilda and the actual musical of Matilda kind of in the same vein. And we'll kind of compare and contrast those. And so, as a kid, the Matilda movie with Danny DeVito was actually one of Belle's favorites. And so, I figured who better to talk about it and kind of give us our baseline than Belle. So, go ahead and take it away.
Okay. I'm trying to think of where to start because you already did say it apparently was a favorite of mine whenever I was really little. According to our mom, I watched that movie on endless repeat for a good long time.
It was one of them, yes.
And I still like it. It's a cute movie. I like the musical too, but anyway, back to the movie. Baseline, a little girl is born and the little girl has crappy parents.
Oh, wait. Before you do that, spoiler warnings for everything that we're going to be talking about. All of it. So spoilers ahead, you're warned.
Yeah. Girl's born. Parents are they're horrible parents. Right in the intro of the movie, it says Matilda, they named her Matilda. And at the age of 2, she learned what most people learn to do in their 30s. And that's taking care of herself. And you see her as a 3-year-old making pancakes and all the stuff a 3-year-old shouldn't be doing. And then it talks about how she's so different from her family because all they do is sit and watch TV. And she just wants to read books. Eventually, her family realizes, she should be in school. So the dad sends her to Trunchbull Hall. No, shoot, what's the actual name of the school?
Isn't it Truncham?
Okay, I forget. She sends her to this school where the principal is a jerk. Mm-hmm. And the principal hates children. But Matilda has a wonderful teacher called Miss Honey. And then you find out Matilda has powers, which I always loved. I think that's why I liked it so much, because I just wanted her powers. And she uses her powers to, save Miss Honey and to save her friends and the school. And end of the movie, Miss Honey gets everything that she was supposed to have because of her dad dying. And the principal, being her aunt, took everything. And then Matilda's family, whose dad was being watched by the FBI, has to run away. Matilda doesn't want to go, so Miss Honey adopts her, and then it ends.
Yep, that pretty much is kind of a quick sum up of the 90s movie. Now, I had not read the actual Matilda story as a kid.
I have not either.
I actually read it recently to prepare for this episode. And there's something that's just kind of charming about Roald Dahl's artwork. I don't know what it is. It's very charming and it's very fun. And so the one thing that Belle did not mention in her synopsis is that in the beginning of the movie, Matilda would play pranks on her parents. Like she put hair dye in her father's hair tonic and it like bleached his hair.
Yeah, she put her mother's like blonde bleach into her father's hair tonic.
Mm-hmm.
So it like dyed his hair blonde. She super glued his hat to his head.
Right. And there was never really any like context as to why she starts doing that. Like it's just kind of like one thing she just kind of starts doing.
No, in the movie it does give a reason.
Which was?
Because her father said people who are bad should be punished or something like that. The narrator says, like, you know, that sparked an idea in Matilda's head because he didn't say when children are bad, they should be punished. He said when people are bad, giving the impression that children can punish their parents.
I see. Okay. So I forgot about that because the first note that I have from reading the book, because the book I feel like does pretty much follow the 90s movie pretty well. There are some differences which I'm going to go through. But in the book, they say that the reason that Matilda kind of started her pranks was more to have a little victory against her parents. She just kind of, I think, wanted to have a little bit of control in a way.
I mean, that would make sense. I don't know. I like how the movie.
Yeah,
put it
I do like that.
Yeah, I like how the movie put it better because I think the way the movie put it that is just nice.
Now, another big difference is that in the book, she has a friend who lives next door that he's really only mentioned in this like one scene. And Fred has a pet parrot. And essentially Matilda asks to borrow the parrot and she puts the parrot up the chimney of their fireplace because the parrot would talk occasionally. And then that night, the parrot starts talking and the parents are just like, it's a ghost. Oh my goodness. Everybody's freaking out. And that was the one prank that she played, which that is not in any of the other iterations of this book that I've seen.
Yeah, no, it's not in the movie or the musical.
I thought that was kind of interesting that she just kind of had this like friend that nobody knew about. In the book, the mom isn't so terrible. Like how in the movie she goes to bingo and like, you know, that's still the same, like, and just kind of leaves Matilda alone. But there is a point in the book where there's almost like there's a little bit of camaraderie between the mom and Matilda, where I think she's just talking about like men in general. And she says something to Matilda along the lines of men aren't as smart as they think they are. And there's some sort of like almost camaraderie between them in a way, which was very different because you never get any of that. And it was like kind of only this one moment that it happened. So I thought that was a really neat little tidbit. So now, in the movie version, when does she find out she has powers? What happens that makes her find out she has
The
them?
newt.
Okay, so it is the same then.
It's the newt.
Practicing the chalk writing with cigar. Yeah, that's how she practices doing the chalk writing is with one of her dad's cigars, which that was very different to me because before she just kind of, she just kind of like practices her powers. And then like all of us, and it does take a lot out of her, which I do feel like that kind of happens in the other iterations.
It more so happens in the musical than in the movie.
Yeah. And then she lost her powers when she was moved up to a higher class. That doesn't happen in the movie.
Mm-mm.
And in the musical, it's unclear. I think it does kind of imply that she doesn't have them anymore. But I think in the musical, it's more so just like, la-di-da, we're happy.
At the end of the musical, like, it's all just, like, it doesn't matter. She doesn't need them anymore, so if she doesn't have them, great. If she has them, great.
Yeah, and I think that Matilda at some point is just kind of like, I want to live with Miss Honey. And her parents, like, legitimately don't care. They're like, okay, fine, go live with her. Like, they're not, like, chased away and, like, leaving. If I'm understanding my note correctly, I don't remember there being an incident where they're just like, yep, we're leaving. Like, they just don't care. They're just like, meh, do what you want. So that's the difference. Is the other parts, again, are pretty similar to the movie version from what I remember. Those were just kind of some of the key points that I thought were kind of different from different iterations that I know. Now we get to Netflix. And I'm probably going to get heated because I had such high hopes because I saw Matilda the musical and I was like, oh, yes, okay, this is great. And then you go to the opening sequence and the opening sequence is so weird. In the Broadway show, it's a kid's birthday party. And then they kind of flash over to the hospital where Matilda's being born. And that's kind of how it goes. It goes between those two things. In this, there's no birthday party. They just kind of start showing a bunch of babies. And then they're like at the hospital. And it's just like really, really weird. Like it's very uncomfortable. I did not like it. And I wrote in my notes, then again, the actual opening with the birthday party in the hospital mix could also be considered weird. But to me, it makes more sense.
It makes more sense because like you have like the kid like kind of forward like singing, and then in the like bright beat, like kind of in the background, you have like the parents holding like a baby doll to signify them. So like, I mean, it works.
Yeah, I feel like it works a little bit better because like there's even one point where like the doctor is like bringing Mrs. Wormwood into the delivery room and he's like singing and like everybody's singing and dancing. And there's a point where Mrs. Wormwood, like it kind of pans to her and she's just kind of like, what the heck is happening? And for me, I'm just like, you can't have a musical and then the characters just be like, this is weird. You know what I mean? Like, It's not, Matilda is not that kind of show. It's not that kind of musical. Like, there are some musicals that works for, and that works well for, but this is not one of them.
Yeah,
so you can't, like, whatever you're trying to do, you can't do it. Then, my first qualm. Matilda has always been honest that her parents don't give two craps about her. Why are we lying now, Netflix? Because legitimately, it then, after the Miracle song, it goes to Matilda singing her part that ends out that song. And she's laying on the top of this van. And the lady, I don't know if it's like a portable library that just kind of drives around or what it is. I don't understand. But she's like, oh, Matilda, you got to get going. I'm closing up. Your parents are probably really worried about you. You need to get home. And she's like, oh, yeah, they're worried about me. And I'm just like, Netflix. Absolutely not. Like, no. She's always been honest that her parents do not care in the slightest.
Yeah.
Also, Matilda, like, never really talks to her parents ever. She's ignored and they don't have a huge fight about money as far as I know. So Matilda is normally pretty much ignored. And then like she comes in the next scene and like her parents are having this huge fight about money. And then they bring Matilda into it. And I'm just like, what is happening here? Like none of this fits like at all. Then the next thing that they show is they show like two people like sitting there and having this conversation with the parents about like their jobs and stuff. And it almost makes it seem like it's like CPS that's there for a second. And I'm just like, why is CPS there? Like, this doesn't make any sort of sense. And then you find out Matilda's sitting on the stairs, like listening to them talk. And one of the people kind of gets up and walks over and she's like, hi, I'm Miss Honey. Do you need to come to school? Do you want to come to school? I'd be your teacher. And I'm just like, what in the actual sweet, loving love of love is happening right now? This doesn't make any sense at all. And it has departed so much in the first few minutes that I'm just like, I don't understand what we're trying to do here. And then afterwards, her dad comes up and starts telling her all about Trunchbull and he's going to talk to Trunchbull and all of these things. And I'm just like, but her dad like never really knows Trunchbull like at all. At least in the 90s movie, I think he sold her a car at one point. So, like...
Yeah, in the movie, he sells, like, Trunchbull car, and that's, like, how he finds
out about the school. But like in this, like there's none of that. So it makes no sense at all. And I'm just like, what are you doing? This doesn't make any sense. Why are you having all of this exposition? Also, she doesn't have a brother. She does not have a brother in this movie musical. The brother is gone. Brother does not exist. She has a brother everywhere else.
She has a brother everywhere else.
And granted, her brother doesn't do much.
Yeah,
so like,
but like he's there for like the father, because like that's like one of the father's big qualms is that she's a girl.
Yeah. And he does still call her boy like throughout the whole thing, which I'm like, okay, like that kind of tracks.
That tracks.
But there is no brother anywhere. I said, why is there no library? Why is the lady with the van probably a traveling library? Like, I was so confused about that whole situation. And like, nothing was really explained. But at some point, she's hanging out with this lady in the van. And the lady in the van drops her off at school or something. And is just like, remember, Matilda, 2 wrongs don't make a right. And Matilda's like, yeah, they do. And like she goes off on her own little thing about how like 2 wrongs make a right or something like that. And it makes Matilda seem so devious that it's just kind of like, what have you done to Matilda? Because that is not Matilda.
No.
That is not Matilda in the slightest. Like,
no, because the whole point of all of Matilda's things, it's if something isn't going the way you want, do something to change it.
Right. And she does have her song. She does have Naughty.
Well, I mean, you gotta have that.
Yes. But this has been after she's done Naughty and she's pulled a couple pranks on her parents. And she's like, yeah, 2 wrongs make a right. And it's just like, what is happening? Because like Matilda is not devious like that. Like, what have you done? Rant. Before they go to the school in the Broadway musical, the little kids are asking like what the school's going to be like, and they're asking a lot of questions. And like they all kind of come together, and then the older kids then come out and they sing the school song. And that's how it goes. And so there's certain lyrics that make sense because all the little kids are asking these questions about why is this happening? Like, what's this? What's this? What's that? Why? You know, all of these questions. In this Netflix movie, that has literally not happened. So the lyrics do not make any sense because none of that has happened. You haven't built any of that up. So nothing makes sense. And I am angry. I am so angry about it because it makes no sense. But I did not realize in that school song that it does go through the alphabet.
Yeah.
I did not realize that until Netflix was like A, B, C, D. And I'm like, oh, that's neat. I never realized that before. Okay. That's cool.
Blind, but in the show, because it has all like the letters around the stage, they light up the letters.
Oh, yeah.
They shine like a tiny spotlight. It's very muted, and lights are like flickering all over during that song, so you'd miss it.
Got it. Okay.
But yeah, I did catch it.
I did not
during
catch
one of the times
I did not catch that. So that is really neat. And I'm glad you told me about that because I did not catch that before. Then why does Trunchbull remind me of a Doctor Who villain in this? Because she's legitimately sitting on a desk and then there's all these little TV screens everywhere.
Yeah, I saw that when watching like a video clip of it.
And I'm just like, why does Trunchbull remind me of a Doctor Who villain? This is like, really weird. So in the Broadway musical, Trunchbull is normally played by a guy.
Yes.
And in this version, I forget the actress who plays Trunchbull. But obviously it is an actress, so it is not a guy that plays Trunchbull in this movie.
How the heck they pull that through? I mean, they must have gotten a talented alto because, like, all of Trunchbull's songs are in, like, tenor and bass land almost.
Yeah. So in the Danny DeVito movie, Trunchbull is played by a woman.
Yes.
And I do like that for that version.
Yes, because, like, she's not needed to sing. It's just...
Right. I like... more so the Trunchbull to be played by a guy in the musical version. Because again, it makes more sense to me in a weird way.
Well, it makes sense because of the songs. If you look at it from a musical perspective with our like musical experience backgrounds, you need a guy to play those parts. Mm-hmm. I mean, they'd have to have recomposed some of the score and brought it to a different key.
I forget how they did it. Whichever actress they got to play Trunchbull in the Netflix musical, she did a very good job. As much as I wish it was a guy, she did a very good job of it.
Well, did they keep Trunchbull songs?
They did the If You Throw the Hammer song, and they did the Smell of Rebellion.
I mean, then they should have had a guy. I'm just saying that because, like,
yeah,
the score is written for a guy to sing. Like, there's a reason in the Broadway show is played by a guy. And, like, same thing for if you watch Hairspray on Broadway.
That Edna
is played by a guy.
Yeah,
it's because of the way the
thing is,
score
though,
is written.
Is that like the prosthetics for Trunchbull and like the chess piece for Trunchbull, it looks so fake. Like, it really did. Like, I could tell. And like,
yeah, and that's the whole thing of getting a guy to do it.
Like, if I can tell, that's bad. Like,
yeah.
And like, I'm sure they put a lot of prosthetics on her too. And I think you could kind of tell that too. Like, there's something wrong with it. And if I can see something's wrong with that, or if I think something's wrong with that,
yeah,
something is wrong.
Yeah, that's another reason why Trunchbull is played by a guy, because the whole thing of Trunchbull is she's a very masculine woman.
Yes.
Nothing is wrong with that.
No.
At all. But in everything that is done, she has the upper body of a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Like, she is all
she's all muscle
and really big up top, and then like that's why it's so funny when a guy does it, because they can make him look like he's all muscled up on the top with all the prosthetics and chest pieces and stuff. And then it's so funny because then you just have a skirt and then these chicken legs.
Right.
With any guy who plays her, because they have to bulk up the dude.
Right.
So it's so funny to always see on stage.
Right.
That's another thing why I think it's also you need a guy to play it to build up that muscle, because again, she's supposed to be a Olympic
hammer,
javelin,
all of those things.
All of those things. So like that makes sense.
Yeah. And the other thing that again was weird is that Trunchbull's going through her, like, If You Throw the Hammer, and like making the kids sing like through the TV screen. She's somehow like making them sing. Who knows? I don't question it. And Miss Honey is just kind of looking around like, what the heck is going on? And I'm just like, people, this is not the show.
No, not for
that.
Matilda.
You can't do that.
No.
So then it's like the next day at school, and they're talking about telekinesis. And they're just like, do you have telekinesis, Matilda? It's where all the brains like pour out of your eyes and you need like, and you move stuff. Another little kid is like trying to like do telekinesis and is like staring at a pop can and trying to get it to move. And I'm just like, do we have a shoehorn that we can just start shit? Like, I'm just like, what have we done? What has happened?
That in nowhere is that ever talked about in anything.
My mom says every minute I'm away from her is like an eternity. So Matilda says this. My mom says every minute I'm away from her is like an eternity. Please stop this. Please stop this. Because no. No, never. Then Trunchbull blames Matilda for the cake at first. What in the actual insanity is this?
Yeah, that never happens.
And then it's only because Bruce lets out an extremely long belch that apparently looks like smoke, pops like a bubble, and showers down small particles that the Trunchbull then eats, gives it away. That is exactly what happens.
That's weird, because it's just Bruce did it.
Yeah, that is
weird.
exactly
That's
what
stupid.
happens.
That's
and
stupid.
I was just like, what is happening? Then there's a second part to the punishment. Nope, that does not happen. Also, Matilda stands up for him. And this is how she finds out about her powers. What is happening?
No, because she finds out about her powers in...
Nope, apparently, it must have been with Bruce, because this is the note that I made. But,
Because, okay, hold on, pause. In the musical... So
in the musical, it's with the newt.
It's with the newt, and it's right after Quiet. And I know that because it is my favorite song in the entire show.
Well, it is Quiet. It is when Quiet is happening is kind of when she's finding out about them, essentially.
Yeah, well, she finds out after, because the whole thing of Quiet is I am here in the present, and I know what stuff's happening all around me. I'm overwhelmed. I get into my head.
Mm-hmm.
and it's quiet, I'm warm, I'm safe, I'm comfortable, and then something happens.
Right.
That's when she figures out she has powers. But even in quiet, she mentions how like her mom, her dad, the telly, like it's all the noises would stop. So she kind of hints that she has an idea that she caused the TV explosion, which is the first use of her powers in the movie and the musical. I'm assuming the book too. Does the television explode in the book?
No, because the Newt situation is when she finds out about her powers in the book.
Well, in both the musical and the movie, it is the Newt situation that she does it and she's like, oh crap, I actually did that.
Yeah, there's
like, that's
no
my
TV.
powers.
Yeah, there's no TV scene in the book.
Okay, well, fair enough. But so it tracks though with the book of come Newt scene, she like finally realizes I can do stuff with my brain.
Yeah. The ear stretching, there's apparently a scene with ear stretching. There is a scene about ear stretching in the book, so good job. Miss Honey tells Matilda, be careful, Miss Trunchbull's dangerous. And Matilda's like, so am I. What is life? That's legitimately my notes. What is life? She explodes the chokey. She goes
that does not happen.
She goes to like the field where the chokey is, and she like explodes it with her powers.
Yeah, no.
Yep.
Nowhere does that happen.
And then the Trunchbull like brings a backhoe to the playground and starts like destroying it. And she's like, you guys break my toys, I'll break yours. And I'm just like...
I mean, that's fitting for Trunchbull, but that never happens.
So in the Netflix movie, she never finds out what Mrs. Trunchbull's name is. Like nowhere up into that point has somebody said Agatha. And then she starts the chalk writing scene and it says Agatha. And I'm just like, what continuity nonsense have we like forgotten about? Because in every other version, she always finds out one way or another what Trunchbull's name is.
I believe she always asks Miss Honey. She always asks Miss Honey, what did your dad call what's her name? Like, is that what your dad would have called her?
Yeah, nope, doesn't happen.
And always Miss Honey's like, oh, it's this.
And then she makes a chain monster that looks like the dad's costume, and it smashes all of the chokies. Please give me a break.
Please give me a break.
Like, yeah, that is legitimately what happens. Like, Trunchbull brings them in for, like, the spelling test or whatever. And then she's like, the first kid to spell something wrong goes in the chokey. Oh, yeah, I made a new chokey. She gives somebody, like, a really hard made-up word and is like, you're going to the chokey. And then all the kids start standing up and they start misspelling, like, really easy words. And they're like, see, you can't put us all in the chokeys. And then she, like, pulls down these curtains that are along the side of the room. And there's, like, 20 million more chokeys along the side of the room. And she's like, ha, 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 wanna bet? Then Matilda might do the chalk writing thing. And Trunchbull's not convinced. And then Matilda starts pulling these chains that are apparently everywhere around the chokeys. Who knows? And she legitimately makes a chain monster that legitimately looks like the escape artist, which is Miss Honey's dad's costume. And he starts like breaking all of the chokeys. And I'm just like, please give me a break. Please give me a break. Because I can't.
Okay, that's pretty funny. But like in the musical production, she gets the chalkboard writing and then like the kids kind of start the process of going into revolting children. Of going into that. And like that like freaks her out and that's what makes her leave. In the movie, she does the chalk writing, she gets freaked out.
And she just leaves.
And then, like, she doesn't leave.
Oh, the chalk, like, attacks her.
The erasers start to attack her. She, like, gets spun around in a globe. She tries to throw a kid out the window, and the kid, you know, ends up flying back in and toppling her over. And then, you know, they, like, start pelting her with, like, food. But
and then Miss Honey comes out and says, this is my school now. Run. Anger is what I feel.
What?
Yeah, legitimately. Miss Honey comes over and I forget if Trunchbull's like, Miss Honey or whatever, or Jenny or whatever. Miss Honey's just like, this is my school now.
No.
Run.
No.
And anger. Anger is all I have to say about that. Anger and rage. So then the parents come to get Matilda. And it's such a weird thing. That's such a weird scene. But legitimately, like, the way that this goes, they ask, like, Miss Honey, like, do you want to take Matilda to, do you really want to take her or something like that? And she's like, I do. And they're like, do you really want to go with her? She's like, I do. And I'm like, why does this feel like a marriage? Like, it legitimately feels like a wedding ceremony, a really weird wedding ceremony.
That would be a really weird wedding ceremony.
And she takes off. Oh, and then, so the whole time since the beginning, the dad's hat has been stuck on his head. She super glued it. The wife never cut it off like she does in the movie. It's just been stuck on his head the whole time. And like, her parting gift to her family is that she reaches up to take the dad's hat off. She sees where like the glue is like stuck, and she uses her powers to unstick it. And she gives her dad the hat. And I'm just like, bleh. The last song that Miss Honey and Matilda sing doesn't exist. Apparently they sing a song, and it's not one I've ever heard before in my entire life. And I am angry. I continue to be angry. But then they renamed the school the Big Friendly School. And I said, if the Big Friendly School is a nod to the BFG, I will give a little bit of credit. But overall, I am beyond pissed about this entire thing.
You should not change Matilda. Don't touch it. Don't change it. You're messing with a lot of people's childhoods, Netflix. If you touch that and you do it that way, you are ruining.
Well, and they did. Like,
they ruined a lot of people's childhoods.
Legitimately. And like, part of me is just like, okay, does this make sense for like how you would have to sell Matilda to kids today? Does this make sense? And to me, it does not. I feel like it does so many things. Like, if you would have taken a little bit more of like the Danny DeVito movie and kind of sprinkled it in here where they've done some of this really weird stuff, then I would be totally okay with it. But they've taken like the musical and they've added so many weird things that don't make sense. And it angers me. Like, I am legitimately angry talking about this version. I really am. Okay. Well, now I need to collect myself. I need to stop being angry. Do you have any final thoughts about any of this?
I like the musical, like the movie. I'm sure, like, if I ever actually get the book, I'll like the book.
The book is interesting. Well, like, the book is very simple compared to some of like the movie and the actual Broadway musical.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I mean, I know I like his stuff because I always loved The Witches.
I can't wait till we talk about the BFG. That's happening.
I know. But I don't know. I feel like when you mess with Matilda, you cross certain lines, because if it's kind of like I don't want to say it's a staple in a book lover's childhood because it's not for everyone. But if you come from like a older family of readers and people who value like education and stuff, they're going to know Matilda, and you're going to be exposed to it as a kid. Because for me, I was exposed to it through Arya and our mom. So like, when you mess with something like that, especially for people who know the musical, who grew up on the movie and love the book and know Matilda and idolized it as a child like I did, you are crossing some very thin lines.
Yeah. I had to take several breaks watching this because I was ready to start throwing my iPad across the room because I was so angry. I was so angry at what
I would
they
be
did.
too, because like that musical got me through and still gets me through a lot. Like the music in that, when I grew up, got me through my senior year of high school. To this day, Quiet I still use for, any anxiety or panic attacks I may have, because it's something that I can relate to and calm down my brain with.
Yeah. There were just so many other things that I just... I couldn't. And it kind of broke my heart in a way, especially with making Matilda seem devious. Like, and maybe that's just me, but that's how I took it. Making
that's
Matilda
not the
seem
character.
Devious is just heartbreaking because that's not Matilda.
That's not the character, and that's breaking a lot of people's childhoods and hearts right there. Because again, Matilda isn't devious. For Matilda, it's all about between what is right and what is wrong.
And sometimes you do have to be a little bit naughty. Like,
yes, and sometimes you do have to do some things that are naughty, but
that doesn't make you bad.
That doesn't make you bad. It makes you still be standing up for what is right.
Right. Yeah. So all in all, that's my thoughts on it. I'm sorry that this is going to be a longer episode, but I had to vent about it because it did make me so angry and so upset that I had to talk about it. And this is our safe space to talk about our thoughts and feelings about the stuff that we watch and read and compare to what we watch and read. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Hope that you liked us talking about the things, and hopefully you're able to follow this all. If you like this episode, if you like what you've been listening to, if you like us, please consider sharing the episode with your friends and following or subscribing to the podcast wherever you're listening to it from. We would really appreciate that support. It really does help. And then what are we going to be talking about next time?
We are going to be talking about banned books.
Oh, that will be very interesting. So, we will see you guys next time then. Bye.